That's cool. Okay, so let's return to our image. Click the return dialog, click on the image. Now we can see the view outside. We can certainly see those trees. Probably a bit big for my liking, so I'm going to select them all. So let's sort of see if we can kind of, get the right ones selected. In fact, I've just deleted a couple of those. That looks really nice, just sort of looking out. You've got a bit of hint of sky, little kind of tree blowing in the wind, and you've got some nice light coming in through the windows there. So what we're going to do, we're going to click onto the image and we're going to change the output size. My preferred resolution for rendering is 4K. Obviously, depending on the speed of your computer and the size you're actually after, you can modify that. But for each individual image, we've said this before, but it has its own depth of field, its own things like parallelism, vignetting, and so on. Now, the depth of field is a nice aspect. And with this, remind yourself that you can click on the More button and you can essentially focus on certain things. So you can see I've now focused on that laptop screen. So that's kind of nice. The office in the background is a little bit more blurred out in the background. Yeah, it's looking cool. So I'm just kind of tweaking this scene to try to get it sort of looking particularly natural. You know, watch your verticals. Make sure you kind of set your eye height about right. And make sure when you're ready, click plus image. You can always recapture those images at any time. But again, go into more. We might want to do a bit of tweaking on the lighting. So we've got an overall exposure setting that we can kind of brighten or darken the entire image if we're not happy with the overall level of lighting. And we've got a kind of white balance. So it makes the image a little bit more bluey or kind of towards the kind of yellowy spectrum, depending on the type of lighting we're looking for. And we can also harden up those shadows by typing in some various numbers. And we can then tweak things like the ambient lighting. That's pretty cool. Excellent. So let's just recapture the image. We'll go to camera just to check how would it look with some depth of field on or off. I think we'll keep it off in this one. So we're just going to navigate along to this scene, again, as if we're sat at this desk here, taking a view over towards the kitchen area. And let's kind of just click depth of field on again, just get a little bit more blurring in the background and the foreground. And we'll focus on this this thing on the counter, just so you can see the foreground's blurred and the background's a little bit blurred as well, which is really nice, just gives that extra realism. So that's kind of cool. Let's return and let's just click plus. So we've got like 4 nice images. We can click on these just to review them. Let's just review, make sure we're happy with them. So let's have a look. I think on this one we'll just lower the height of that building outside a little bit. Yeah, that's much nicer, just to get a little bit of hint of blue sky in above it. We're only really doing this just sort of, you know, to create a really nice image. It's not trying to be super realistic at this stage. That's the luxury of doing things like tutorials to learn. But we'll go for 4K, Ultra HD. Or, in fact, we could go for custom if we wanted to, and we could put a really nice custom size in. I quite like sort of long, thin aspect ratios, things like 4000 by 2000. That gives you a really nice, twice as long as it is high. And when you click on full screen, you can really begin to see that slightly more panoramic type of view. Now, let's introduce a few clouds into the sky. You know, don't go too dark, otherwise it starts to rain and looks a bit overcast and the sun disappears. But you can see just about halfway here is a good choice. Just through that glass, we can just about see the, just about see the clouds. And if we change the growth factor, it's really nice. It affects all the trees when you do that. So you can tweak all of them universally. Now, imagine how much time that will save. So that's looking really nice. Happy with that view. Just review the next one. Yeah, pretty happy with that one. Yep. Okay, cool. So I think we're on to the last sort of stages, finishing touches. Definitely need a few more people in here now. So again, let's drag in some animated humans this time. Now, the animated humans are really nice because basically they have a little bit of movement associated with them. And you can change their different poses by clicking on pose. They have different clothing settings and different animations as well. So, you know, again, even one person has a really big variety of different options in terms of clothing, types of pose. So she looks like she would be quite appropriate for an office setting. Let's kind of change what she's speaking about and how she's speaking. So that's pretty cool. You know, imagine trying to do this in traditional software. It's just so difficult to do. It's one of the things I love with Twinmotion. It just makes it nice and easy for the average user. The results you can get really rapidly, really quickly are superb. So you can see that's starting to look really cool, that scene. It's quite natural. Let's kind of just pan across a little bit here and just see, oh, we've just gone behind the glass there, just get back into the space. And you can see we'll just drag a few more people into the scene. It's starting to look pretty good. Okay, so we'll just kind of rotate this chap round. So again, click onto the base plate and just rotate round. And let's just choose one or two more people. Again, the really nice things is, as you see, you can kind of change them to different positions and sit them down. Just if you're really careful, you can kind of make it look quite natural. Just be careful with the sitting down people that they don't sort of show through the chairs, or you kind of get them seated correctly. So sometimes you just got to be a bit careful with the way you position them. So let's kind of pan around in here. We'll kind of move into this space. Here are the static people. You can see they're not animated, but they are a little bit better quality. So when you're very close up, they're quite a good choice. And then maybe in the distance, we'll kind of have someone a sort of a little bit more animated, just to give a bit more interest. So let's kind of keep working here. We'll just look down onto the scene. Again, we can look above the ceiling, but if we come out too far, you will notice the ceiling will be visible. So that's fine. We can just turn it off while we're working. That's the advantage with naming things. It's easy to find, easy to identify, and easy to turn them off as well. Okay, so for this next section, what we're going to do is we're going to actually put some animated people in using the character path. So we'll click onto the character path icon. We'll just zoom out a little bit more here. And you can see we've got essentially got a pen. So we kind of draw the path. You've got to be a bit careful that you don't sort of say snap onto something three-dimensional. So just try and be really careful. You can navigate in and out while you're doing this as well, and that can help. But yeah, just take your time. Be a bit careful with where the path is going to. Let's kind of click one more click there. Let's kind of walk down there. And then we'll go back out into the office space. And when we're here, we can pretty much just click escape to finish. Now, as soon as we've drawn the path, you'll notice that we get people spawning and walking down it. So as soon as we kind of drawn the path and we let go, people will start to walk along that path. And there's a whole bunch of different settings, things like type of people, clothing, width, density, reverse direction, and also kind of density is probably the biggest factor that makes the biggest difference. So just going to do one more path. Just be careful you don't have the path selected, otherwise it thinks you want to carry on. So deselect the path and then click to draw a brand new one. Let's do one more character path. Click on the pen icon. Kind of start from this office space out here. Should be able to walk straight down here, turn the corner, and then all the way off we go. Let's kind of loop back round. We'll just kind of see if we can click on the floor space there. Brilliant. Click escape. So again, people will start to walk the other way now, just to make the scene look a bit more natural. You can see if you do increase the density, it gets very, very busy. So yeah, things to watch out for with things like character paths. People bumping into things, absolute classic. It's so easy to do. So all you need to do is click on the points and essentially move them around. It's a bit like a Bezier curve. You can kind of just move the points around. You can actually move them physically up and down as well. So let's move this chap out of the way here. Have him spun around watching the telly a bit more. So when we click return to image, you can see we've got quite a nice little preview of the people walking around. I say do watch out for them walking through. So that guy's just simply crashed into, there's no intelligence here, just crashed into the other path. So we've got to select that path, click on the point, let's just select that again, click on the character path, to the other one actually, click on this point here, and we'll just kind of slide that movement out a little bit. People pause while we're doing it, and then we can essentially avoid clashing. In fact, what we'll do, we'll just delete this chap altogether. Just move him round to sit in this other chair. That makes a lot more sense. You saw the guy do a bit of a jump there, and the reason for that is that character path must have snapped onto perhaps one of those chairs. So again, we should be able to just delete a vertex. So sometimes it's better just to click delete. Let's see which one it is. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's better. We've kind of fixed it now, so they're actually not. That guy's now walking over her. So again, you can see it can be quite fiddly in a dense space to get the character path right. Definitely takes a little bit of work. So I think we'll get rid of that character path and we'll just stick with the original one, but you get the idea. Definitely something that we can add a bit of life to the models. Okay, good. So let's review our images one more time. We've got a nice little bunch of images here of this sort of kitchen cafe type area in this office. And let's go forward now and set up some animations or video. So we'll click onto video. We'll click create video, and what that does, it generates our initial keyframe. So we can move forward a little bit, as we said before, and we can click the plus sign. Let's kind of pan around a little bit more, go forward a bit more here, and we'll kind of click onto the plus sign. And when we're happy, we can kind of click play and just get a little preview of the video. So the good thing about previewing the video, you can spot little glitches and things that are problematic, like that chap was sort of halfway poking out the chair, I noticed. So you could fix things like that. But if you want to, you can also add different parts. And this is a new feature in Twinmotion 2020. Rather than lots of separate videos, you can actually add a number of different parts. And each part can have its own camera settings, things like depth of field, focal points, that kind of thing. So for this particular clip, what I've done is I've aligned the camera so that I'm looking pretty much in elevation at that wall. And I'm going to basically go back, click update on that first frame and just sort of walk forward. So you can see it's maintaining the eye height nicely. Let's walk forward a bit more, let's click plus. So that should be quite a smooth little frame. Let's do one more little pan round here, click on plus again. So when we preview that particular section of the animation, it's very nice and smooth. Kind of walks forward at the pace that we set. It's quite natural. I love the video playing in the background. That's so cool. And then it kind of just spins around a bit. So again, we can add a number of different parts here. So let's add part 3. Again, let's align ourselves using the camera align icon to that sort of kitchen worktop wall. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm just going to click there to get that perfectly aligned. Just tweak the camera position a little bit and click update to recapture. Now I'm going to walk forward a bit and let's click plus. Let's go play that really nice and smooth. Now a good little tip here is if you want to go quite cinematic, you can essentially really only have 2 keyframes, a beginning one and an end one. And if you actually adjust the field of view, then the depth of field makes a big difference. You only really notice depth of field once you've got a smaller field of view, something sort of less than maybe 60. I think we're probably on about 90 here, so we can kind of get the camera opened up to see the space. So I'm just going to walk forward a bit here, keep adjusting that sort of eye height. Yeah, let's click plus. So this is part 4 of our video. Again, let's kind of just go on to location. See if we can do like a little animation here where we change the lighting a little bit at different times. Like a little time lapse really. So just kind of just see if we can adjust that a tiny bit there. Yep, that's that first keyframe. Let's click update. Let's click on the next one. And what we'll do is we'll click more again. We'll go to location. Let's change the time again to a different time of day. And then what we should see is, that's kind of nice. Yeah, I like that. Let's click return, back to media. Just tweak it a tiny bit more. Let's go back to media. So when we click play on this little clip, notice that the sun moves. So you get this nice little time-lapse effect. Now I know this is a bit artificial, but it's just quite a nice little effect that you can add into your animations to create a bit more interest really. So that's really cool. So that's our part 4. Now you could easily do some external animation as well, but all I'm really going to do, I'm just kind of spotted a couple of things I want to fix on the outside of those windows just to make it look a bit more interesting when we're in. I'm going to drag in a few crowds of people or groups. Now these are great when you want to rapidly add large groups of people to the scene because they're all preset, they're all pre-animated. You can actually double click into the group and move them around as well. We can drag in things like vehicles and buses and cars, probably have a car or coach on that road. And let's return. So yeah, hopefully we can just about glimpse the vehicles and the people outside, and certainly those extra trees do make a bit of a difference. So definitely a really useful tip. Just be, quite sort of self-critical. When you're working, play through the animations and, don't be happy with the first ones you produce. Always see what you could improve in terms of lighting, potentially materials, but also composition. And composition is one of those things that's quite hard to teach in a way. It's sort of, one of those things you've just got to refine by doing it over time. Just making the scene look interesting and well balanced with lots going on in different areas. So again, we're just tweaking the times of day here. Let's play through this clip one more time. Yeah, that's really nice. The shadows are moving a bit more slowly now, a bit more naturally. Kind of time lapse as we move nice and slowly through the scene. And do remember that was only a 10-second clip. So you can easily basically add a bit more time. As I say, kind of constantly sort of spotting things. I've decided I think the carpet looks a little bit dark now, a little bit boring. So let's have a little play around with some of the different carpets there. That's looking interesting. Maybe the carpet tile a bit dark. I'm not quite sure about that one. Let's try something else. Just kind of go through. Yeah, how about something like this? A little bit more funky, particularly if we kind of upscale a bit. So yeah, that definitely adds a bit of visual interest. So what you will need to do in your Revit models is essentially define different floor areas if you want different floor finishes, rather than one big universal floor. So that's looking cool. You definitely a lot more detail with that nice new flooring. So final review of the images then. I'm just going to quickly review these. See if you can spot any kind of last minute glitches or things that you want to change. Before you export, it's always better to get them sorted before you export. But when you're ready, we can essentially just do a final little tweak on that one maybe. Yeah, let's kind of do that. That looks cool. And let's create one more image there. I mean, I love the speed of things that you can create so many images so rapidly. Let's have one in this office here. That looks quite nice. Yeah, let's kind of frame that up nicely. You see the detail of the static people. They do look really good actually when you're quite close up to them. And then the ones that are animated look pretty good in the background as well. Cool. So I think we're kind of getting there with just framing up this final image. Let's tweak the camera position ever so slightly just to kind of try and get our verticals looking nice. And I think for this one we'll turn on the parallelism, which kind of gives you nice vertical lines. So it's not like a single point perspective. It can look a bit more natural sometimes. Good. Okay, so we've got our video clip, but do remember this video clip is actually 4 parts. So it could have been 4 individual clips. What I recommend again, if you can render at 4K, go for it. It depends on your graphics card on your computer. If not, go for 2K, which is a lower resolution, but will render a bit faster. So we're just going to play through the entire video here, part 1. It seamlessly blends into part 2. That's looking good. I like the lighting on that new carpet, it looks quite good. And it plays pretty much in real time. Sometimes you get a little bit of lag, but it's pretty okay in terms of a preview. So we're on to part 3 now. That's quite nice the way she walks by just at the right time and then carries on into part 4. That's the advantage with doing video in parts potentially as well. And the part 4, remember, was the time-lapse one. So I'm super happy with all of that. When we're ready, we can go to the export tab. Now this is really nice. It's simply a case of selecting individual images or just select all of them if that's what you're looking for. We haven't got any panoramas yet, we're not doing those today, but let's click onto our video clip. And when we're ready, we'll click Start Export. So again, always a good idea to make yourself a specific folder for these. So I'm going to save these into my project folder. Probably just right click, create a brand new folder. Let's kind of just pop that into there. Let's call this Office Renders. Very good. Let's select that folder and basically start exporting. So I said this a few times before, but one of the real beauties of Twinmotion is the speed at which it renders. Because it's GPU based and graphics card based, if you've got a decent graphics card, it's predicting at the moment all of that's going to be rendered out in about 2 hours. But actually I do find often it's a lot faster. One quite interesting thing to do on my PC, I've got this NZXT cam, which kind of looks into your system and it basically shows the performance of your computer while it's rendering. So I'm going to let you sit back and relax and watch the final output of both the images and the video from a previous practice as well. I hope you've enjoyed these tutorials. I've certainly enjoyed making them for you, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Please join the YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.